Hey, this is Mr. Ward, and I'm going to do another commentary on some MCAS questions from the 2019 Math MCAS for 8th grade. Then we have two Pythagorean Theorem questions. So we got this triangle PTU shown on this coordinate plane, and we got P, T, and U. And we're asked to find out to the nearest unit the length of TU. Well, TU is a diagonal, so it's going to be a little hard to figure out. But the nice thing about the grid is it sets us up with a nice right triangle. So we can draw ourselves a nice right triangle using the grid. And then we can figure out how far, of course, this is our right angle. So we can use the a squared plus b squared equals c squared formula to find out this length, which is now the hypotenuse of our right triangle. So we would consider this length c, and then these two can be a and b. So if you recall, the Pythagorean theorem goes like this: a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And we just need to figure out how long a and b are to figure out what c will be. So a is, we can count on the grid. So we are at -2 here, and here we're at 4. So 4 minus -2, okay, is 6. So we have 4 minus -2 squared. Okay, and I'll go ahead and do all of this because we're going to have to do this. So we can also find out how long this is by subtracting the low number from the high number. So we are at 2 here, and down here at -5. So that's going to be 2 minus -5 squared. And all of that's going to equal c squared. All right, so that 4 minus -2, let me make it clear that's minus a negative. That 4 minus -2 is just 6, because if you subtract a negative, it's like adding a positive. Oh, it changed my point size on me again. Okay, so that's 6 squared, and then 2 minus -5 is the same as 2 plus 5, so that's 7 squared, and that all equals c squared, and so that's 36 plus 49, because 6 squared is 36, and 7 squared is 49, and that equals c squared. Now we need to add 36 and 49, so that's going to be 85 equals c squared. All right, now to figure out what c squared is, you'd need to get the square root of both sides. So square root of 85 is going to equal c. All right, so what's the square root of 85? Well, the square root of 85 is between a couple of other square roots that are easy to deal with. So it is above the square root of 81. Oh, it did that thing with the point size again. It is above square root of 81, and it's below the next square root, which is the square root of 100. That's when I say that, it's the next perfect square root. So square root of 81 is 9, and the square root of 100 is 10. So our square root is between 9 and 10. It's going to be closer to 9, and the only option on here that would work is c. It's definitely not 6 or 7, because those are just our side lengths. And 13 is way too big. I believe 13, someone just added 6 and 7 and got that. So our answer is C. 9 is our closest one. Okay, and I lied earlier. I said the other one was a Pythagorean theorem question, and I just made that assumption because there was a right triangle. But actually, it's not even a Pythagorean theorem question. This is a proportions question. We need to know what it means to be a similar triangle. So similar triangles are going to have the same angle relation. They're going to have all the same angles, and their sides are going to form proportions, which means that we could set up a proportion with this bottom side, which is going to be called a base, and this side over here that's 8 centimeters, which would be called a height. We call it a height because it's vertical at a right angle to the bottom. The bottom should be called a base. So let's set up some proportions. So the base is 5 centimeters, and the height is 8. So we have a base, okay, a base to height, which is 5 to 8. Okay, and now what we need to do is work out what proportion in here actually matches that. All right, so 9 to 12, so 5 to 8 is about 62.5%, 0.625. 9 to 12 is the same as 3/4. And 3/4, if we made that into eighths, would be 6/8. So that doesn't work. 8/11ths, you could probably figure out that 8/11ths is not going to match. But 8/11ths is 0.727272 repeating. That does not match our 0.625. 8/11ths is too big. C is 10 to 8, so it's just twice as big as 5 to 8. So that leaves us with D, which is 15/24. 15/24 we could reduce. We could factor. So I'm going to put this in here, 15/24. Oops, let me do this way. Over 24. So 15/24, we could reduce that by dividing 15 by 3 and dividing 28 by 3. Those would both end up being 5/8. The other way to test this is this. We find the cross products. So the product of 8 and 15 and the product of 5 and 24. Well, the product of 5 and 24 is 120. If these products match, then we have a proportion that's true. Okay, so that's 120. And 8 times 15, so 4 times 15 is 60. So double that. Since it's 8 times 15, 60 times 2 is also 120. So we have a match. If you had wanted to test the others, you could test this the same way. You could say 5 is to 8, as 9 is to 12, and then you would have had 9 and 12, and 5 times 12 would be 60, and 8 times 9 would have been 72. That wouldn't have matched. You could set up 8 over 11. 5 times 11 would be 55, and 8 times 8 would be 64. That's not a match. Hopefully, it'll be obvious that C is definitely not a match because it's double 5/8. And so our only option is D. And I hope that helped.